Those in favor of starting at the first charge?
Which would be?
Aggravated murder with death specifications, count 1.
The jury has picked Chuck Whitehill, a marketing specialist, as their foreman.
That's where we need to go.
Count 1 is the murder of Barbara Davis.
I find the defendant guilty, and I think that the state proved each of those things.
I find him not guilty because I think that there was a lot of uncertainty with the tapes, and I think that people do blow their own horn a lot.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
In a way, I'm kind of doubting that he killed Barb Davis, but I feel he killed Don. That's where I'm torn between the two. You know what I'm saying?
The person that they're using in order to convict does make a difference. Even though they want to tell us it doesn't, it really, really does.
First of all, Brad Weiss is not on trial here.
Thank you.
He is not on trial. It is not an issue. Bottom line, Mark Ducic said on those tapes, in his own words, that he took care of those two people. Do you think they're going to send somebody like you or me into Ducic's house to buy drugs? There's no way.
The issue is, did he kill her? He said he did. The point is, she's dead. He said he killed her. He told more than one person. We got to figure out whether he learned or not.
I'm just wondering how the jury is thinking. Like, why would I say something like that if I didn't do it? You know, these ain't normal people. These, you know, this is John Key Citizen here we're talking about. So, you know, they've never been in this type of position. Where's payment? If I wouldn't have said the things I did on the tape, I wouldn't be here. You know, that's the bottom line. You know, I can't blame nobody else.
I don't think that he's a great guy, don't get me wrong. He is the scum of the earth, okay? In many ways, he deserves possibly to get the electric chair. But the fact is, it says in here, if you found that the state did not present their case fully, that you agree with everything that they had to put on the table to put him to his death, then you can't put him to death. And that's the problem I'm having. I feel
Actually,
that
it's beyond a reasonable doubt.
beyond a
just for
reasonable
the record.
doubt. But I'm having some doubt.
If you hear someone saying, I murdered someone on that, it's taped. It doesn't matter if right after he says it, they go and smoke crack. You know what? They smoked crack. They're drug addicts. He still admitted to murder on that tape.
Just over an hour into their deliberations, they are split 10-2 in favor of convicting Ducic for the murder of Barbara Davis.
Does he not say that I'm afraid she's going to go and rat on me to the police or the FBI? He does or he doesn't? Did you hear that?
Yes. But I also heard static. Do I pretend I didn't hear that?
But it doesn't matter.
It does matter because I heard it. I heard static. It does matter.
We all heard it.
Too far down the line.
Well, actually,
Why don't we play it?
oh, that's a good idea.
Since we plan ahead a little bit, and a month ahead, give her a little bit of this, give her some perks, give her a couple oxys, and then bam, all of a sudden, you know, she does a hot shot, and bam, she's through. You know,
This is the first tape. He hung himself. He hung himself. You and I think you're getting too hooked on, which is going to be hard to me on this step too. He's guilty or not guilty. I'm not going to think about the sentence on him. I'm going with the facts. You got to look at the facts.
Okay.
Don't think of what's going to happen to him at the end, which I'm going to have a problem with. I'll be honest with you. I'm starting right off the fact.
To be honest with you, I like you all as people and as everything, but I would just cringe if you were a jury of my peers and I was just some big talker who had a drug addiction problem, who was being snitched by somebody else who has a drug addiction problem, I would just say, you know what, shoot me now. Shoot me now.
Simple. Don't let your alligator mouth overload your hummingbird ass, period. If you can talk about it, then you better be willing to suffer the consequences of the action when someone
People
accuses
talk
you
about
of it.
stuff every day.
And that's a chance they take.
It does not matter what you think or what you believe. He said it on the tape. Period.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you think. He said it.
And the judge said that. That's where her instruction.
Did he intend to cause her death? That's where the problem lies with me. I don't believe he intended to cause her death. He didn't have a
By mid-afternoon, Carmela, now the lone holdout, is raising the question of why the coroner would switch her ruling from accidental overdose to murder.
What would create a woman of her experience who put down accidental to change her mind?
In the initial one, Her evidence said she was told it was an overdose, period. She was a known user. Later, they brought in tapes of this man saying, I did it, I got rid of her, I got rid of somebody else, and I got away with it. That's why she changed the verdict.
This, like what, 20 seconds here, 15 seconds there, that changed this whole woman's perspective on this case?
It's demeaning her logic to say, based on 15 or 20 seconds, she changed her opinion. She is the ultimate professional. If she did not see something that was so compelling, she never would have done it. She fights against doing this.
What is brought to her to make her change her mind is what I'm questioning.
She wouldn't take that lightly, you know.
No, I don't think she would be. I do believe in her credibility.
So you
why
don't disagree
question
with her
it?
judgment? Isn't that the logical
That's
place
the
you
logic.
have to go?
That's the logic. I don't, as
You're
far
fighting
as-
it so much, though. You told me you believed her. You trust her judgment.
Yes, I do.
Okay, well then
trust
believe
her.
it there.
They are on their afternoon break.
Yes, I'll creep the night.
20 minutes later, everyone but Carmela is back in the jury room.
Bye-bye.
What happened?
This is a problem with the juror. Where's Mark?
I thought you got lost.
I'm gonna go in here for now, but they're getting the lawyers together.
what?
I'm excusing myself, ladies and gentlemen, from this. I have never felt so much pressure, and I've had pressures as I have felt in this room in such a short amount of time, having to make a decision like this. And I just really, I need for myself, I can't say for anything, I need to know
Anxiety.
at night that I can sleep with, and I don't feel that if I stay here that I will be able to do that.
Carmela has been called to the courtroom.
Good luck.
If she cannot continue, the judge will have to decide if the deliberations can go forward. The jurors stop their deliberations while they wait to see if Carmela returns.
I'm just feeling very overwhelming. Like an elephant in my chest. I just think that it's a little bit more than I expected in there.
The issue is whether or not you feel physically and mentally that you can continue on and deliberate.
Yes.
All right.
Well, if she holds out long enough, then she may hang the jury and we'll have to do it again, that's all. Of course, she could be the other way too. She could be the only one for conviction, but it doesn't sound that way.
No.
If they find you guilty, Mark, we're gonna go and we're gonna appeal it.
All right.
Mark, I don't wanna give up on you now.
John, I know, John.
If we go down together, but we come back to fight another day.
You know.
Yes, Carmela.
It would make me feel so much better if the judge were to speak as exactly to what is expected on each count, so that without any certainty, we all really, really, really know what's the guideline. That would just relieve my conscience as to following the law, okay? Because I'm having a real hard time with this.
We know you are. Relax. Relax.
We want to be certain that
A few minutes later, the judge gets a note.
something of these issues becomes totally clear, ensure justice prevails. Thank you. I've done with everything but the murder counts.
You have been given the instructions of law, both in open court and in writing. You have been provided complete instructions on the murder counts.
The message is, we have all the documentation in this room. If we need it to be clarified, we will read it together.
What if you let her read?
You want to read it? You can read it. I have no problem with it.
You can see it.
Read it. Let us. That's a very good idea. It's right here.
Before you can find the defendant guilty, you must find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant purposely and with prior calculation and design caused the death of Barbara Ducic.
Purpose is a
Prior calculation and design would mean the crime was premeditated. That, in legal terms, Ducic acted with purpose and intent.
Did he not say that she was going to rat on him? And further on, did he not say to Weiss that you have to have so much time, you have to make sure that people know that they're a user, so that it looks like it should be an accidental. So if he knew it then, he knew it here. To me,
Right.
that's purpose and intent.
To me, that would be prior calculation.
Well, then if you agree with prior calculation, then you'll agree with us. Because that's basically what this
Based on
says.
just that sentence, that's prior calculation, in my opinion. You know what, let me just sign off on it, because I'm hearing what you're saying now, and it's coming to a head.
Okay.
It's basically, the tape, we're listening to it. We hear that Mark says, first you've gotta give them drugs a little bit, get it in their system, that kind of thing, and then you give them the hot shot,
You know what it
and then
means.
they die. If I just took that segment of the tape, I'm with you. I believed that there was a lot of doubtful stuff with that tape.
Yes.
But if they want it just like that, then I can comply with that. I can comply
Unfortunately,
with
that's
that.
the system.
Any other issues we want to discuss about prior calculation and design before we vote on it?
If you were willing to stand up in front of all those lawyers and the judge and say, this is my decision, raise your hand. We're all in agreement?
I'll check it out.
The verdict. We, the jury, in this case, to find the defendant, Mark Ducic, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of aggravated murder charged in count 1 of the indictment. Are we all on board?
Yes.
You okay?
Yeah.
Guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
3 cheers.
Yep. Good job.
Look how
Are you
many.
okay? Are you okay?
She can't applaud for that.
Oh, that's all right, Margaret. It's a
tough,
very hard
Margaret.
decision.
Margaret, I was in no way, I would clap for
We're
somebody
done.
dying.
Oh, we're gonna stop for now? Okay.
I think so.
It was the meeting of the minds.
As they leave for the night, the jurors have only found Ducic guilty of the first count, the murder of Barbara Davis. They will have to return tomorrow to deliberate the rest of the charges and to determine if Ducic should face the death penalty. The jurors have spent the night sequestered in a hotel. They start the morning with the second charge, the murder of Donald Urke.
I believe that Mark Ducic purposefully killed Don Urke, and for the sole purpose of shutting him up, because he was afraid that he was going to rat him out.
This guy could not keep his mouth shut. He continuously tells on himself.
Well, I think he made a fatal mistake in judgment, assuming that because he was successful with it once, he thought he was invincible, and he did it again. When we're voting for this, we're voting actually for mass specification.
They're now at a turning point.
Is a success.
If they find Ducic guilty of killing both Donald Urke and Barbara Davis, then they are also convicting him of mass murder, which in Ohio permits the maximum sentence, death by lethal injection.
Please raise your right hand if you want to approve this verdict of guilty.
This vote means that they'll have to return to court for a sentencing phase, where they will have to determine Mark Dusic's fate.
Unanimous.
Can somebody tell me what the milligrams were of those 50 oxys?
Okay.
They have been deliberating for close to 20 hours.
Count 15.
But before they can deliver their verdict on the murder charges, they have to go through 27 other counts, including 16 narcotic charges.
The bailiff called us and told us, make sure the family's here. He thinks they're wrapping it up. So everyone's here. It's important in the courtroom, just be cool.
It's just like a hollowness in the pit of my stomach. Earlier in the day, I was hoping for a hung jury. Now I know it's Ducic who's going to be hung.
Finished document, folks.
Yes.
As we say, mazel tov.
Ring the bell, please.
Good work. All right.
That perked me right up.
Yeah, you can hear it now.
Count 1, we the jury in this case being duly impaneled and sworn to find the defendant Mark Ducic guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of aggravated murder as charged in count 1 of the indictment. Count 2, we the jury in this case being duly impaneled and sworn to find the defendant, Mark Ducic, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of aggravated murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment.
Please rise.
The jurors have convicted Ducic of 30 of the 32 counts. They will have to return on Tuesday to decide if he should be sentenced to death.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There you guys. All right. You hang in there, all right? Mark Ducic's reign of terror is over.
Maybe John Lusker won't think this case was bullshit anymore, now will he?
Whatever happens Tuesday, he's done. 12 people just made this county a heck of a lot safer.
A lot of guys want to blame their lawyers. We should have done this. Nah. Because, he put everything into this, That jury was one of those juries that wouldn't matter how it come out. It still would have been the end result.
I've never been like this. I'm not an emotional type person. I don't know what it is with this guy.
They will have to stand in front of the jury one more time and ask them to spare Dusic's life. Mark Ducic has been found guilty of mass murder. The final stage of his trial will be the penalty phase, where the jury will be asked to decide if Ducic should be sentenced to death by lethal injection.
If I don't get to death row, it'll be life, 25, 30 to life. And I'm dead anyway. I'd rather be on death row.
Can you think of a better end to this than you get the man who causes intentional overdoses to himself die of an intentional overdose?
Don't feel like you need to say something or blurt something out. And I know it might be hard to do because you want to sit there and look at him and say, please give him the needle that he, I want him to have the same overdose. Don't do it.
The day before, Mahoney and Caceres are preparing the victim's family for court.
You can't ask the jury to put him to death or anything like that.
So we basically can't ask any questions we want to.
I wish I could push the button, but you can't do that, so I'll settle with just being on the watch.
I commend the jury for what they're doing. They're a lot stronger than me. I couldn't do it. I can't wish death on anybody. I really can't. No matter what they've done, I can't wish death on them.
I mean, the real problem is no one has a handle on who he is.
Today, the defense is meeting with what they call their mitigation team. Social worker Carol Martello and Dr. Alan Karpowicz, a psychologist who they will call to try to explain who Mark Ducic is to the jury.
He's a drug user. He's not a real successful criminal. He hasn't worked in years. I mean, you have a very nebulous person here. I mean, that's the real difficulty.
What the defense is trying to do is come up with, in legal terms, mitigating factors, something from Dusic's background that will give the jury a reason to spare his life.
He's in trouble come mitigation time. He really is. I think our ability to get a conviction was more difficult than it will be to get the death penalty, because when you put the T-chart up in the ledger, he has absolutely no mitigation on his side whatsoever that I could see.
The mother is the one factor that makes this guy sympathetic. What else in his background makes him sympathetic?
She would make a great witness, and she has given her entire life to him. He is her life, and she sees no reason to go on living if he's not. Mothers aren't always the greatest mitigation people, but she's pretty much what we've got.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you all took an oath, and I asked you specifically, all of you, if in a properly proven case, could you sign a verdict form? I told most of you that we will hold you to that oath now, and I do so.
It must be unanimous. That gives each one of you the power to say no. Death is not appropriate. Each one of you has that power. And we pray that you'll deem this life worth saving. Thank you.
Your Honor, we call Dr. James Karpowicz. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon. Mr. Ducic was a very hard individual to evaluate because the information that he was giving me just didn't wasn't consistent. The records really described a man, after reviewing them all, that really didn't exist, except probably in Mr. Ducic's own head. The facts are he's an individual that has been drug addicted and who's not accomplished much with his life.
You would agree he's willing to lie and say anything to get what he wants.
I think Mr. Ducic has lied most of his life.
And would you call your next witness, please?
Your Honor, at this time, we call Mark Ducic to the stand for an unsworn statement.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, as I indicated to you earlier, the defendant may make what's called an unsworn statement. He is not under oath, and there will not be any cross-examination. Mr. Ducic, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I am not here in front of you to beg for my life or to cry fake tears in the hopes that all of you taking sympathy on me. I shouldn't have to beg or cry for something I did not do. I just can't let you people walk away from this case without knowing the truth. If you feel that you have to send me to death row, if that's your verdict, I will have to live with it, but it will be on your conscience, because I know in my conscience I did not kill Barb or Don. I made up stories to make me look like a hitman. But I never thought that it would end up like this. And there's so much more that you haven't heard. The only thing you heard from most of the people that had something to lose, that wanted something back that Mr. Caceres could give. But I swear to you, I didn't kill Don, I didn't kill Barb. No intentions of whatsoever. I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
May we have a moment, Your Honor?
You may.
Ducic's mother is sitting in the back of the courtroom.
You want her up there?
No. What? No, she's probably break down.
That's what we want. We need that.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
Your Honor, we're going to call Miss Bernice Ducic. You want to take your check out? Hey, ma'am, how old are you?
84.
Do you have any children, ma'am?
Yes, I have one son,
And what is his name?
Mark Ducic.
And you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes, at that table right over there with a real nice blue tie on and a white shirt.
Some questions I may ask you might be difficult, but I'll need your responses, okay? Did he attend church on a regular basis?
Yes, when they would have processions, he would always be in the procession. He was an altar boy.
And your husband was whom, ma'am?
His name was Eli Ducic.
And he is no longer with us?
He died 6 years ago. And when he passed away, and Mark told me, he says, Mom, he says, from now on, it's you and me. I'll take care of you. It'll be the two of us.
Mark's had some problems in his life, hasn't he, ma'am?
If he did have some, he always tried to hide it from me. He didn't want to worry me. If I got sick or something, or I couldn't get out of bed or something, he would even cook and clean house and do everything.
Mrs. Ducic, are you Mark's natural mom?
Huh?
Are you Mark's natural mom?
I'm his mother, yes.
Is Mark adopted? Is Mark adopted, ma'am?
Yes.
Does he know that he's adopted?
No. And I don't think that was a fair question to ask. That's
I'm sorry,
private.
ma'am. No further questions.
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Ducic, you can step down. Would you like some help?
I just don't want you people to take him away from me.
All right, ma'am. All right.
The staged cry scene with the mother was just ridiculous. Dusic's got to know he's adopted. That's just a whole stage thing.
In fact, Luskin had told Ducic earlier in the week.
It was a trump card. It was a ploy. It was your job is to save Mark Ducic from death,
And if that saves, if that's the one thing that saves him, so be it.
I think we should start at the beginning.
Okay.
The judge has instructed them that if the aggravating circumstances of Ducic's crimes outweigh the mitigating evidence that they've just heard in court, then it is their duty to sentence him to death.
The circumstance that he killed Donald Durkee in order to avoid detection, apprehension, those kind of things can only be weighed against the mitigating, saying that, he isn't capable of murder, he's a great guy, the testimony that people gave you today on the stand.
The most compelling one for me, outside the mother, because that's compelling in my heart, but I'm going to put that all aside because that was just a personal compelling, was the actual doctor.
I think the only thing that he showed us was that Mr. Ducic believes he is a lot of things that he is not. And that is the first substantial backing that I have seen that says, maybe this guy does do a lot of talking. Maybe he does.
I second that.
Do you believe that a mitigating factor would be something like the fact that his mother is old, elderly, and that she has no one to care for her?
The only mitigating factor I see there is that, God forbid, she doesn't have anybody to take care of her after this gentleman, or whatever you want to call him, is away, and she has no help.
She came here and she stood up for him. I think he does love his mother, but because of the drugs, changed his mind.
If you're going to consider the drugs to be a mitigating factor, you're going to have leniency and give him credit when it's his own choice. Nobody put the needle in his arm. That is a circumstance that he has to be held accountable for. You're giving him credit for that.
We're not giving him leniency. We have convicted the man of murder. He is guilty of the crimes that he's committed. It bears on the sentence that the drugs are involved. If not for drugs, he might have made a better choice. And at this point in this discussion,
I couldn't agree with you.
I'm not going to cave to send this man off to get strapped on a damn gurney somewhere.
We're not even anywhere near that right now.
That's what we're talking about. I mean, we all know what we're talking about.
The jury can recommend to the judge 4 possible sentences for Mark Ducic: death, life without parole, life with the possibility of parole at 30 years, and life with the possibility of parole at 25 years.
I believe that if a person sets out to take another person's life, that their life should be taken from them. Period. End of story. But I would be willing to go life without parole because I don't ever want to see this bastard out on the streets again.
So you
I would go
think
for the death penalty, and if it couldn't be the death penalty, I would not ever let him out of jail.
I'm stuck between the gurney and life.
Are you really?
Life without.
That's where you are?
Life without parole and the gurney.
So where are you?
Life, I guess.
Or
put me under jail. Put me under jail.
Put me down for life, because I'll feel better him thinking about what he did. I want him to have 25 years. I have hope.
And my vote would be death. However, I would acquiesce to life in prison.
I just cannot see death or never seeing the sunshine again. I will be open-minded, but I have some convictions that I will stand ground on.
As they return to their hotel for the night, 7 jurors have death as their first choice. 3 are voting for life with no possibility of parole, and 2 are voting for a life sentence with the possibility of parole at 25 years.
He took the right of life away from 2 people. It is our duty to take his rights away from him.
If you give him 25 years, you might, just might, and you don't know, you might turn that person around and make him realize what he's done. Let him have a second chance at age 72 when he gets out.
I believe some of the stuff he was saying to me about the other people getting to come up there to go talk against him.
Do you believe that that man killed 2 people?
Yes. I still say he did not kill Barb. I still say he killed Don. And for that reason, I will not give him the death. I'll be right now. I cannot give him the death. So if you want to go with death, I will not sign. I
Well,
will
actually,
not sign.
just
I
for the
might go
record-
with life. I don't know. But I will not go with death.
There are certain things that have been established. Let's not reinvent the wheel here. Things that we have already signed off on, in my opinion, are outside the realm of our ability to go back on.
I totally disagree. The words I'm hearing,
totally
and I'm not,
disagree.
yes, this is my second chance. I have the right, Mary, Margaret, June, Chuck, DeVette,
We
Jen.
get it, we
I
get
have
it.
the right.
We're not saying you don't.
You have-
The evidence
you have
and
the
the
duty
facts
also.
and my
Right in
duty,
there.
and I'm following the law. I will tell you when I'm
Relax,
wrong.
relax.
No.
Where are you going?
I'm going to the fact that the first time I was following by the letter of the law in a bullied manner. I'm sorry, but it was in a bullied manner because it was 11-1.
In an attempt to focus their deliberations, they returned to discussing mitigating factors.
Alder boy.
Up to the 6th grade, he probably did learn enough to have a knowledge of right and wrong. But I know a million Catholic boys who were altar boys and turned into juvenile delinquents, and later on, some of them were worse.
So you would not give it much weight?
I wouldn't give it much weight.
Okay.
I
ahead.
kind of believe with him being an altar boy, the possibility down the road that finally he's going to
Look
get down,
inside.
look inside himself and say, you know what, maybe I need to go back into this.
I feel like it do.
Millions of children are adopted, and they're not out killing people.
Mental health, go ahead.
The list grows over the next 4 hours, but still no consensus.
If everyone can commonly agree that these circumstances outweigh these circumstances, you don't have a choice. It's death, period.
I do have a choice.
No, you don't. If
Yes,
you
I
agree,
do.
if you agree that aggravating outweighs the mitigating, you have to find
I
him
have
to
the
the death
choice.
penalty.
You're
It tells
wrong.
you on the paper.
Yes.
Read it.
You're trying to say that I have no choice. So if I have no choice,
I
what's the
said
purpose
if
of
it
being
went
here? I
one
have a
way, you
choice.
wouldn't have a choice, and that is fact if you read the paper.
In 4 hours, we have not made, take a vote and see everybody said, we have not made any progress anywhere in 4 hours.
Is it possible for us to weigh in again on where we are with this verdict?
Death and life.
Death in life.
Yeah, I have to say death.
Death or life.
Right now, life or death. Death and life.
Everyone so far has been death or life.
25 and 30.
25, 30.
Death and life.
I'll go with life and 30.
So what is that?
6 to 6.
At an impasse, they asked the judge for help.
Unfortunately, the jury cannot
reach a unanimous decision. We have proceeded through the various phases of the sentencing charge that you gave us, and there is a split that is immutable. Ladies and gentlemen, it is desirable that the case be decided. You should listen to one another's arguments with a disposition to being persuaded. Do not hesitate to re-examine your views and change your position if you are convinced that it is erroneous. You will now be excused to resume your deliberations. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Please rise.
If they cannot reach a verdict, Ducic's sentence will be left entirely to the judge, who is not allowed to impose the death penalty without a jury's unanimous consent.
I figured they were close. I figured, this is it. I'm beat, I just want to get it over with, get on the bus and get where the we're going then,
Can you tell me a crime that has more weight than mass murder?
If I saw, or they knew for a fact that this person held a gun up to somebody's head, and they had witnessed, say, I saw him hold the gun up to their head and shoot her in the forehead. The guy's fried. He is absolutely fried. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. Foreman,
Yes, ma'am.
I've closed all my arguments. I'm done.
As they start their third day of deliberations, everyone who's for the death sentence has agreed to compromise on life without parole.
All right,
But Carmela and Gloria want them to go further, to life with the possibility of parole at 30 years.
I had asked myself early this morning, would I be willing to live with giving Mark Ducic life with parole after 30 years? And I had to say no. And one way I looked at it, he would actually be getting 15 years for each person. If this decision was reached, I would not be proud of it, and it would stay with me the rest of my life.
In reality, I'd push the plunger and look him right in the eye why I did it. It would not bother me a bit, because I know that he is guilty of these crimes. But then I'm not an animal, and I won't stoop to his level. And I will not create another victim or break another heart.
I'm giving him justice by giving him 30 years. Do I think he'll come out in 30 years? I really don't think he'll come out in 30 years. But them stepping down to death, down to life, I can then sleep at night. So I'm happy to give him life. I erase my 30, go to life.
Hold on.
He's alive.
You have-
That's all I can do.
Sure. The way I see it right now, you can all do life. I am not budging at 30. That's it. I am not willing to surrender my honest beliefs, not for any one of you. Well, Chuck, then you might as well write a letter to the judge.
The court finds that there is no probability of the jury agreeing upon a verdict. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You are now excused. I'd like to thank you for your service. It's been a long month. It is greatly appreciated by all of us.
Please rise.
Our first mission was to save Mark Ducic's life. We did that. We saved his life. That's our small victory.
An hour and a half later, they return for sentencing.
Mr. Ducic, is there something you'd like to say?
Yes, ma'am.
May he approach the podium?
He may.
Thank you.
Oh, good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Keep your voice up.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for being fair and consistent during the course of this trial. I would also like to thank the jury for sparing my life. There's so much that I'd like to say, and there's so little time to say it.
You can take as much time as you care to.
It's just, I love Barb, with all my heart. And I think that, if she had met me, that she'd still be alive. But there's been so much that hasn't been said here. Most of the people understand, they had their testimonies bought or deals made, and they've changed stories. We picked her up that night, and that's how I met her, if you believe, at Sandy's
I
house.
frankly can't believe a word you say, but go ahead.
Okay, ma'am.
Just say thanks.
Well, ma'am, as it says, I'm very sorry for everything that's happened, and, I have to live with that the rest of my life. But it is the truth.
Ever the con man, still here today, trying to con everybody. Thank goodness for the 12 outstanding citizens who heard your case and didn't fall for your conning. Count 1, aggravated murder with death penalty specification. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 2, aggravated murder with death specification. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 1 and count 2 will be served consecutively to one another. Each murder deserves a separate and distinct punishment. That is the sentence of this court. Anything further on behalf of the state of Ohio?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, we're adjourned.
Postpone conference. Yeah. No? Yes.